that it's not, well, it's a good thing because now we are able to tell who are the good leaders and who are not. Ruth?
Well, over and above being able to tell who are the good leaders and who are not the good leaders, I think one thing that this pause has done to us is that it's made us really reflect on whether some of the challenges we had been mentioning in the BBI are actually our top challenges, you know. I think right now we are now realizing that our biggest concern should be, or rather is, how prepared are we for and how prepared are we for things that happen that are beyond our control? Because when we talk about elections, we have the IEBC. When we are talking about governance, we have all the structures in place. When we talk about resolving corruption, we have our courts. And to some extent, one would want to say the argument that some Kenyans had that we have proper systems, our problem is implementation, is true to some extent. So our biggest concern right now is Kenyans should realize that the focus of our leadership should be on whether their people have proper healthcare systems, you know, whether there's enough sufficient food, where we have essential services that would sustain our people. Beyond that, I think governance can take care of itself. And not necessarily take care of itself, but we just need a few changes here and there. But we have the systems in place. All we need is implementation.
All right.
Our concern should be the things that matter most to the citizens. Do we have them in place? Is our governance system or are our leadership structures properly functioning to ensure that the essential services are offered to the citizens? I think that is where now our eyes are now.
Our eyes should be. All right, let's move on to something else on page 7 of the Standard. Uhuru, we are on track but not out of the woods. And he was announcing some of the measures that government is putting in place to ensure that we get out of the woods, or at least manage or buffer, the conditions that we are in. And among those measures is, of course, the stipends that are going to be given to the most needy. We have a 5 billion package to support counties in strengthening their response and capacity for COVID-19. Let me start with Mark Bichachi. Your thoughts on some of the progress that we're making, given the announcements given by the president yesterday on some of the measures they're taking.
I personally would like to commend the president and indeed the government on deciding to do a cash transfer instead of wanting to do the logistical nightmare that is trying to distribute physical food. There are two reasons why I think that is a good idea. Number one is that it employs technology and it avoids the person-to-person contact. Number two, it's that it gives the people who receive this stipend dignity. So when you go to the shop and you've received your 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 shillings from the government, and you go to the shop, no one will know that your 2,000 shillings is from the government. So you don't look like a beggar, and you have dignity of choice. So you don't have to eat maize and beans. You can decide to go there and buy a packet of unga ugali, or you can treat your kids to some chapati. So that's very, very important. Thirdly, is that it is a way to keep the economy going. In other words, what I'm simply saying is when these people have money, they have to use the shops have to buy from wholesalers have to pick things from the factory, and that's one way of keeping the economy going during this COVID pandemic. And what that makes, what that does is that it's you're not only stimulating the economy, but you're also giving people dignity. But most importantly, now we will have a database of Kenyans who are in need. Now, what is my desire? My desire is that we keep on taking care of Kenyans who are in need. The truth of the matter, we have a 3 trillion shillings budget. What is wrong with spending 2 billion of it, which is a very negligible percentage, less than 0.1%, on making sure the poorest of Kenyans have something? And let me tell you something. I've been to the poorest parts of this country, and 1,000 shillings changes the life of someone. And if we can do that every month, that would be a good thing. So personally, that is something I'm very excited about. The other thing that is exciting is, yes, we've got nearly 250 tested cases, but the truth of the matter is that that is far less than what we expected. It means that the measures that we are putting in place are at least slowing the growth of COVID-19, and that is what we wanted from the beginning, to slow the growth. So the fact that the growth is slowing is good news. The fact that the numbers are still growing is a bit worrying, but the fact that it's slowing is good news, because we are not overwhelming our healthcare system.